Thank you everyone for joining us. Today, we're going to discuss how you can transform your agreement workflows using Docusign and Microsoft. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone of our safe harbor statement. Please base all of your purchasing decisions on currently available offerings and not on any forward-looking statements that may be made today. Now, let's proceed with introductions. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by one of our customers, Shane Meisner. Shane, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Hank. So I'm Shane Meisner. I've been working with the Power Platform now for over 8 years. Currently, I'm Power Platform team lead at a large company of 20,000 users, and we have 1,000 citizen developers that we help train and develop solutions.
Great. Thanks, Shane. And my name is 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗶𝚲, and I'm a Senior Business Development Manager at Docusign and manage our Microsoft partnership in North America. And at Docusign, we really want to celebrate our customers and our partners who leverage the power of agreements through our platform and capabilities. And before I hand it back over to Shane to discuss his use case, I'd like to share some insights about our company's evolution and delve into the concept of the agreement trap, and explain how our platform and solutions, in partnership with Microsoft, can help our customers break free from it. And you'll hear from Shane how he did it. So many of you know us for our leading e-signature and contract lifecycle management solutions. And we recognize that agreements captures the most critical moments for businesses, governments, and consumers. Yet the way agreements are managed has changed very little over the last century. While we've moved from pen and paper to word processing and email, the fundamental process remains largely the same. And as you can see, Docusign has really dedicated itself to helping grow its customers and making agreements easier and more trusted for everyone. Not only did we make digital signatures legally binding, but we also elevated them to become a critical part of a seamless automated agreement process. Now, we're extending that same ease and efficiency of e-signature to the entire agreement process within a single connected platform. From user-friendly agreement generation to secure signature collection and AI-powered agreement analysis. It's all part of our new collection of Docusign Intelligent Agreement Management. We call this Intelligent Agreement Management IAM. It's a new category of cloud software that's powered by AI that can help organizations streamline and automate agreement processes and unlock and unleash the power of agreement data. And while there's plenty of technology that focus on some specific aspect of an agreement process, Docusign offers the only platform that can fully harness the value of agreement data for companies across every industry worldwide. Let's dig into this in a little bit more detail, though. I'm sure we've all had agreements come across our desks. And at some point, you've probably signed an agreement, whether you purchased your house or a car. And if you really think about it, the world runs on agreements. They're the foundation of every business. Yet the way we manage agreements is fundamentally broken. While investments in technologies like CRM, ERP, and HCM have delivered efficient data-driven processes in areas like quote to cash or hire to retire, the agreements that those processes rely on have remained largely untouched. They may have moved from pen and paper to something digital like a PDF, but whenever one of your employees interacts with them, they're pulled out of a modern digital process and dropped into one that looks like it did maybe even 100 years ago. This is slowing down your processes and is introducing unnecessary cost and risk at every step. And at the root of this are two fundamental problems found in virtually every business. And if you're a Microsoft and Docusign customer, you'll definitely want to hear about it. First, the systems and processes that manage agreements are often manual and inefficient, and they're disconnected from your core business systems. Second, in most organizations, there's an immense amount of valuable data in these agreements, and it's unusable because it's trapped in a flat static file. These inefficiencies really do apply to almost all agreements across departments in your organization. Disconnected processes and inaccessible agreement data are the two components of what we call the agreement trap, and they have a significant impact on your business. This not only prevents you from realizing the full potential of your other investments, but it also carries a substantial cost of its own. A recent study from Deloitte indicates that the agreement trap costs organizations 20% of total agreement value every year, and this is destroying close to $2 trillion in global economic value annually. Across every part of an organization, teams are slowed down by inefficient processes. Critical questions are going unanswered, and the efficiency of your existing tech investments are limited because the data is not flowing between your agreements and the systems that depend on them. So how do we solve this agreement trap? Well, we start by working with partners like Microsoft. And it's because we believe organizations need to adopt a fundamentally different approach to managing their agreements. One where agreements are core to your broader business workflows and they drive key processes and enhance operational efficiency. One where agreement data is automated and connected across your applications like Microsoft, ensuring real-time insights and synchronization with your broader business data. One where teams are empowered to effortlessly leverage agreement data within your applications, again, like Microsoft, driving faster decision-making and more efficient downstream processes across departments. And we've really placed these principles at the core of everything we do to help our customers break free from the agreement trap. Together, Docusign and Microsoft connect and automate agreement processes from end to end, helping you streamline workflows and keep users in their flow of work. And if you visualize a general agreement process at each step along the way, our Microsoft integrations can help you integrate and automate this work from start to finish. With Docusign's suite of integrations into Microsoft, your users can execute agreement tasks within their normal workflow without having to toggle between applications. Your administrators can scale processes by routing data and document between systems. Docusign is really the only solution that can integrate across the entire agreement journey and meet the needs of a diverse use case across an organization. And when we look at this process from end to end, we see that Power Automate touches several areas, allowing you to create automated workflows between your favorite apps to synchronize agreements, get notifications, collect data, and much more. So let's hear from Shane how he beat the agreement trap at his company using Docusign and Microsoft.
Thank you very much, Hank. Thank you very much, Hank. I appreciate the introduction. So as you can see here through this slide, we had a department reach out to us and they had a manual process that they had 450 letter of authority for individual underwriters, and it was taking them over 4 hours to process each one of those. So roughly 1,800 hours a year was spent manually processing, signing, and getting storage of those documents. They also had the issue that this was all done through emails and Word documents, and so they had no visibility to approvals, status. They had to go back into the shared mailbox to find anything. If someone asked, hey, I haven't gotten the document to sign yet, they had to search the shared mailbox, time consuming to find that information. They also are looking for a way to recertify, to have the underwriters sign a new document twice a year. And it was such a manual process, they just couldn't use their current process. So they originally reached out to a third-party solution company who wanted to charge them $500,000 for just the first 3 years and no estimate cost. So they reached out to us, and I looked at what they were doing and saw that with a premium license, we could do this for less than $250 a year or $750 it for 3 years. So major cost savings there. And so based on what they wanted to do here, we ended up using from Microsoft Power Automate, Power Apps, SharePoint, and Word, and then using the e-signature connector from Docusign to integrate the full process. So this is just a quick show that, originally when we wrote this, they had 1,800 hours saved. We reduced the work from the admins that they were spending 1,800 hours, and now it's less than 15 minutes per year. And the only time they get involved is if somebody reaches out and says the document hasn't arrived to get signed. They can go to a SharePoint list now and see where we're stuck. And now, because we automated this, they were able to do their recertification twice a year. And so they're seeing over 3,600 hours of time saved per year. So here shows the original process that was in place. And as you can see, there's arrows going everywhere. It was all emails. So a requester would put in a MS form for which letter of authority they wanted. The admins had to find the right Word document, send it back to them. They would fill it out. And then it would go to a manager. If the manager wanted to make changes, they had to edit the Word document and then send it back to the admins, who would then send it to a product director. So it was a continuous emails back and forth, updates of Word documents. And then they would finally get the document to upload to Docusign. The admins would have to manually upload that document and enter all the requirements to say who signs first, and all that information was all manual. So the next one here will show you that we've streamlined this whole process. It's all automated. There's no manual processing involved at all anymore. The requester enters the data through a Power App that saves it to SharePoint. There's an automation that looks up their manager and sends an automatic email to them. The manager can look at the document that was created based on the enter of the information, and then they can go back into the Power App. They can update any of the information that's incorrect, and then they can approve, which will create a new draft document, and then it automatically sends to the product director. They go through the same steps, and when they approve it, it creates a final document. That document is then automatically uploaded to Docusign. It has all the information captured from the SharePoint list up to Docusign, so there's no manual entering of data out on Docusign. It just does all that work, sends out for signatures. And one of the other problems with that manual process was they had no way of automatically getting a copy of that signed document. They required somebody that got the copy to forward it to them to put it in a SharePoint library. We now capture that automatically and store it in a secured library for future reference. So now we wanted to show you kind of the process from an end user perspective and a little bit of information on the flows themselves. So here's what the end user will start with. And they can see the navigation menu, which letter of authority they're trying to get signed for an underwriter. And they just select an icon. And this brings them to our form. And here they can start filling out. In this case, it defaults to new letter of authority. So they can go over to the business unit and select which business unit this letter of authority is for. And when they select one of those, the fields particular to that letter of authority show up. And we have a submit button that lets them know they're doing livestock in this case. We also have authority violation letters, no authority, terminated. And so in this case, there's less fields to fill out. And now they can pick from all business units. So this is when I mentioned that there are numerous letters of authority, and each one of these is a different Word template. And so now they could select each one of these, saying this person's not authorized to create a policy for financial. They select the employee. If somebody else needs to get a copy of this when it's signed, they can put their name in here, and then they'll submit it. And so then that will come back into our SharePoint list. It's a new document. It goes out to the manager of that employee, and the manager will now go and enter there. They come in, and as you can see, the submit button now is changed to manager submit. They can make changes to any of this data. and then they approve or deny the request. Well, in case this is no authority, they would approve it. And then we have links to the documentation that tells them that even the manager has limits that they can approve. And in this case, because it's a no authority, they're just going to click yes, and then they can add comments. All of this is captured back to the SharePoint list automatically, nothing manually done for the user. And so then now you can see this says it's manager approved. An email has now gone out to that business units director. And so here I'm showing the flow, and this is how it flowed through. We captured all the information. We created the Word template. It then manager has updated and said that they approved. And so now it's going to populate a new document from the manager information. And then we're going to create a file in our library, the draft document. In this case, because it's no authority, we go right to the final document because the manager is the only one that has to do it. And we break permissions to make sure it's protected. Yeah. Then our third flow kicks off. And this is the one that uses Docusign's magic. So in here, it'll go through, it grabs all that content from the Word document that was created from what people put in the Power App. And now we're going to upload all that information up to Docusign. So we're creating the envelope, adding the document out there, who signs first, who signs second. So everything that you normally would have done manually is all automated now. And then our last, and this is what the document, so now it goes out to the manager to sign first. And so the manager would get an email, a link to this using Docusign. This comes directly from Docusign. So in this case, I'm doing manager and employee, but this would be the manager of the underwriter signing their document. And then an email goes to the underwriter for them to also go through and they sign it. They can see that the manager signed it and when, and they can click sign here. And that finishes that part. And the very last flow that runs is one that grabs that signed document now, and it grabs that document and pulls it back in to our shared library, and we break permissions and protect it so only the product director, manager, and the underwriter can actually see that document now in our library. And we send an email out to those that need to know that the document was signed with all links back to the document. And then at the very last part, we update our SharePoint list item to let it know that it is signed. And so here's your documents. You can see the Word document that came in and then the actual signed document that was entered and signed. And then our final thing shows that our updated now, that document is signed. Anybody can come back in and see when it was signed, when manager approved, when the product director approved.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. That's a great demo. I also think it's a great example of beating the agreement trap. I mean, that was a complicated process. You were able to use Microsoft and Docusign to streamline it, save time, save money. Great example. So let's talk about some of the best practices. Let's first start with, how did you even find out about this?
Yeah, so when they came to me and told me what they were doing, I had never used Docusign personally, never even looked at the Docusign connector. And so I told them, yes, I think I can do this, but I have to go learn what this is doing. And part of that learning phase was going to Docusign's site, and their help is one of the best help document sites I've ever seen before. Every step-by-step, how to create the flow, how to use their connectors when I'm building the flow was all outlined very clearly and made my job it's not simple, but at least now I had some examples to help me build the automation. So that's how I created it. It was Docusign's documentation and help site that helped me build this out for the customer.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Then second, what were some gotchas or, hiccups you might have ran into that might be helpful for others to know about?
Yeah, so there was one part I really got stuck on, and if it hadn't been Docusign, I might have still been stuck on it, was that when you're adding one of the connectors in there, there's a point in there where you got to pull in the content from the document that was created. And so when you do that, you can't just select the content. You have to use what they call an expression of base 64. So this is the connector. It's when we're adding that document that was created, that Word document, up to the DocuSign. In the document base area, it gives you a hint that it's base 64. Now, what most people building in Power App knows that if you click into that box, you'll get dynamic content. And inside the expression on the right side, you can see that that's literally what it's doing. Go get the file content from up above in the automation. But to get it to work, you have to write it as an expression. And again, DocuSign's help file helped me figure this out. When I searched on why I had documents isn't working, it literally talked me through or walked me through how to use the base 64 expression to actually get that content that gets uploaded to DocuSign. So that was a big one. The other one that was that it comes down to when you're connecting to SharePoint libraries, you can't use, if you're doing it in what we call an application lifecycle management system like this is in, when you use environment variables, you can't just use the name of a SharePoint library. You have to go find the library ID in the settings and then use that ID. But that was some of the big gotchas, the library ID, and especially this base 64. It tripped me up for a while because when you're building Power Automate, you're used to using dynamic content, and that does not work for this step. You have to use the expression.
Okay, good to know. I'm sure you just saved some people days, maybe even some weeks of searching around. So thanks for sharing those tips.
Yep.
And thank you again for being here with us. We love highlighting our customers and showing real life examples of how you can beat the agreement trap. And thank you for tuning in and listening to this session. And if you want to learn more, please scan the QR code and visit our site. Thank you.
Thank you.